Well, my name is Steven. I grew up in Prineville. I come from a very large Native American family. Since I've been back, I've made my presence really known at the parks here, you know, with kids, you know, trying to spend one-on-one time with the younger generation, you know, and it's sad because, you know, these kids they're already introduced to drugs, you know, and when I was a kid, like, I was one of the very few at their age who knew about drugs, and because I had siblings who did it. You know, these kids, everybody's got access to it, you know, and the parents are some of the worst ones right now that I've got to see in this town. Is, you know, they're getting their kids high, you know, who are still in middle school, early high school, you know, who are super undeveloped already, and, you know, are already smoking meth before they're 15. You know, it's sad that these, you know, the kids that have nothing to look forward to, you know, there's nothing for them to do. There's, you know, there's no parks, there's no real adults even standing up to show that these kids there's something different. God has brought me back to Prineville for a reason. It says in the Bible it's to be a servant, you know, Jesus was sent back here to serve others. That was his life, you know, and if I could only do a piece of it, you know, even if it's one conversation a week that I can have with somebody, you know, and who knows, that it could be the littlest conversations. It's not like I'm going out there trying to save the world. It's maybe I can plant a mustard seed, or I can show somebody by my actions, like, that I'm doing the right things, you know, and people are still gonna see me slip and fall, you know. I'm not saying I'm a perfect addict, you know. I'm like, oh, I'm recovered, I'm never do anything again. I'm not saying I even haven't, you know. I slip, I fall, just like anybody will. And it's how you pick yourself up from it, you know, and that's what I try to show people is, you know, you get everybody who gets so caught up in, oh, well, they're getting clean, you know, oh, but they fell, we gotta cut them out again. Is no, as an addict, you are gonna slip. You have to expect them to slip. But it's how you deal with it and how you pick yourself back up, you know. Did you slip and say, oh, well, that was fun, now I want to get high again? Or is it, I slipped and now I have conviction over my heart and I was wrong and I need to apologize and I need to admit? When a person has reached that point in their recovery, then you know the rest of it's going to be easy. You know, now they're starting to have self-reflection. You know, it has nothing to do with anybody else, or they're not getting sober to please everybody else anymore. It's for themselves. It's a mentality game. You know, when you finally have figured it out and say, you know what, enough's enough, and I can now look at drugs wrong, and you see all the time that they took from you. You know, that's the one thing in this world you'll never get back is time. You know, so if they can see that drugs is now a waste of time, then their recovery is a whole lot easier. You can't solve this problem overnight. You know, I think it's gonna take friendships. It's gonna take time with these kids. You know, you can't just expect to walk up to a kid and say, hey, drugs are bad and don't do drugs. You know, it's gonna take time for me hanging out down the parks and spending time with these kids and making them know my story and, you know, taking them around to other people. But, you know, at the same point, I'll give an opportunity to introduce, you know, church people into their lives. You know, maybe I can open up the hearts to these young kids that they can hear my story, and, you know, who knows, it might scare them straight. You know, it's gonna be a personal one-on-one thing. You know, this town is small enough where it's gonna be, and it's gonna have to be personal. To help these kids in the park, you know, it's a hard one. You know, it's because you could go down there, you could put all these Christian people down there and make it a big deal, make a drug awareness, but that's not what's gonna do it. You know, it's gonna be kids like me, or, you know, adults like me who have been through it, who will take the time to go down and spend with these kids, you know, and build friendships with them, trust, you know, not just wait for these kids to get in trouble and get sent to a court-appointed, you know, counselor. You know, that's not gonna do it for them. By that point, it's already too late. You know, it's about putting these addicts who have been through it and want to help. You know, we need to put them in front of these kids and say, you know what, let's talk real to you. These are the truths. You know, let's really tell you the truths of what these drugs do. You know, there's people who talk about drugs, oh, the fun parts of it. They don't talk about the nights that you were so sick you were laying on the ground crying, you know, at 25 years old, crying to your mom, you know, asking, you know, trying, you know, not only physically crying, you know, about the pain you're going through, but the emotional, you know, the emotional game of drugs alone these kids don't understand that, you know, how many times, it don't matter how strong or how tough you are, how many times as an addict you'll start crying and come home and, you know, lay in your mom's lap and cry to her because you don't know what to do in life anymore. I think the church can definitely get involved by, you know, holding events, that kind of stuff. I think it's going to take time to get the church involved because a lot of the addicts have a hard time going to church because of their own personal heart, or, you know, because they met people who said that they were Christians but treated them really poorly. I think that we're going to have to take the church to them. You know, I think that I'm going to try to spend my time trying to find and put groups together where I can open up their ears to be able to bring, you know, a pastor in, or bring, you know, a counselor, or bring somebody in who knows the Bible, you know. But I definitely think the church is going to have to get taken to them and not have them taken to church, you know. Hopefully in time the people will go to church, but for right now that's not where it's going to be. It's going to be in a park, it's going to be in a house, you know. It's going to be where the addicts are. That's the only way we're going to help them. I'm not going to be able to have these conversations with people if I'm not sitting there in the circle with them, you know. I have to catch them at the right time. You don't always have to talk to show people that God's working in your life. It needs to start young too. We can't just focus on just the addicts who are adults. We need to start trying to get that problem before that happens. We have to go back to elementary school. The drugs are right there in their faces. You know, these kids they're gonna have that opportunity to smoke heroin before they're in high school. These kids, they don't have that, you know. They don't have any support. They don't have people they can even talk to, you know. And I even know that as, you know, older people too, you know, they don't have people to talk to. You know, I've got friends who are, you know, in their late 20s, you know, who still can't talk to their parents real and tell them about their drug problem because their parents want to be in denial about it and act like their kids are perfect, you know. And that's the worst way to go about it. You know, parents have to stop living in denial about where the world's at, you know. It's not the same that it was when they grew up. You know, I'm definitely hoping in, you know, these next few years that God will keep opening up the doors for, you know, for something to change here. You know, whether or not it's just in Prineville or, you know, Redmond, Central Oregon. Obviously it's got to be everywhere, but I know being home that this is my place to be. You know, this is my place to put a group of people together to help.